2027 is a long way off. They say the decisions have already been made in closed rooms. They want you to stay quiet. They want you to stay tired.
But here's the hard fact. The Electoral Act 2025 is already signed. The Nigeria Tax Act 2025 is already in your pocket. The laws that will govern your future are being tested today. This isn't just another radio show. It's a board meeting for the Republic. If you pay tax, you are a shareholder. If you have a vote, you hold the power of attorney. We aren't just discussing policy, we are auditing the performance.
From the three-arm zone to the streets of the FCT, from the federal budget to your local ward, we are tracking every kobo. We are deconstructing every clause.
Don't be a spectator in your own democracy. Don't let them spend your mandate without your permission. It's time to move from the sidelines to the front lines.
Provocative, intellectual, action-oriented. The Citizen's Mandate with Somi, reclaiming the office of the citizen, one audit at a time.
The mandate is yours. Now, let's get to work.
Every Thursday from 5 p.m. only on 95.1 Nigeria Info. Abuja, let's talk.
So much, Capital City, for keeping it here on your number one talk station, 95.1 Nigeria Info. We are back to the boardroom this afternoon. It's been a while since I've been here, and I've missed being able to sit down and audit and check out what's been going on at the level where we as citizens can actively participate. But today, it's beyond an audit. We are deconstructing on the conversation today, and this is an interesting one. I remember when I first of all came up with the topic and I did my research, I already had people asking me questions, and so we're going to be answering some very important questions today. But I'm not doing this alone. On Citizens Mandate this afternoon, I've got with me in the studio Agianpe Onyema. She's a program manager, election and civics responsibility and legal advocacy. She's the program manager, elections at the program manager, elections and civics policy. I'm messing it up. You're with Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, that's PLAC, yes. And your role there is Programs Manager, Elections and Civics. Fantastic, thank you so much. And she's also the Secretariat Coordinator at the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room. Good to have you here, Agianpe.
Thank you for having me, Somi.
It's good to be. I've been trying to get you for a while. I'm glad you were able to come on such short notice.
Absolutely.
So good to have you here. All right, so as you can tell, she's here in two capacities. She's here from both Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, which is PLAC. A lot of you know the acronym PLAC. And she's also here from the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room. And let me start by painting a picture for you, right? Just days ago, the National Assembly did something some people call historic. They passed, as both chambers passed, the State Police Bill 2026 and transmitted it straight to 36 states. Right now, the very nature of how you are protected, policed and secured is being rewritten. But the question, especially because this is about you as a citizen and the role that you play in matters of your country, is: did anybody ask for your input? Did your representative call a town hall meeting before they pressed approve? This is what we're talking about today, a habit that we have come to see where we treat lawmakers like the untouchables, some say traditional rulers. We vote for them, we wish them well, and then go home to suffer in silence for years, waiting for the next election, because we think our only power is in the ballot box. And so today, we hope to demystify the concept around the National Assembly and make you understand the role that you play as it relates to them. And one key thing that you do, especially as it has to do with as it has to do with bills that are being passed at the National Assembly, because as a citizen, it doesn't start and end at the ballot, okay? Yes, your votes and your right to vote should be exercised to the fullest capacity, but we have now become the kind of people that once we do that, we go back, we sit down, we fold our arms, and all these things are just flying across our heads. And then we come here on radio, and we complain and complain and complain. We talk, as my people will say, Ntiang Nkong. But at the end of the day, you feel so helpless. So we're demystifying today. And one of the roles that you play as a citizen, especially as it has to do with your National Assembly, is the role of lobbying your lawmakers. So we're talking about the lobbying citizen today and how you can exercise this right beyond the ballot and go into the National Assembly to influence the kinds of bills that are coming out of there so that you actually feel like you're represented and your voice is being heard. So I welcome you, Agianpe, once again. Let's start with this very, very important question. What does it mean to lobby as a citizen?
So lobbying, basically, in simple terms, is an advocate.
Okay.
Or advocating for bills. And I think a lot of people see it as a bad thing, maybe because of the kind of laws in America, or if you watch some of these, American movies where you see lobbyists are usually people who are like professionals trying to stop progressive bills, maybe organized by some big company and stuff like that. But however, in very simple terms, it just means advocating for a particular bill. So if you have an interest, you want to be able to say, okay, I want this bill to push forward and things like that. And anybody, to be honest, can have an interest. The only issue we have in Nigeria is that you really have to follow proceedings, which are not usually so open to the public, to be able to push things through. And it's not something that you as just an individual will be able to do. So it's best done when you organize groups or you go through associations and things like that. So for instance, I have this big erosion problem in my community, and I'm really it's something I'm really passionate about, and I would like a law to be passed and things like that. So you try to reach out to your senator, try to reach out to your House of Rep member, gather people together and things like that. You could actually write to them and say, please, this is what I want done, and things, in that way. If it reaches, your legislator, sometimes they actually stand up to talk about things of utmost importance on the floor. And, you see them reading out things from their constituencies saying that this thing has happened and would like to see something done about it.
Okay. But for the most part, I think where we're starting like a re-educating type of thing today, because again, they hear the word lobbying and so people think it means you need to have some amount of money. Yes. So you say there's a perception that we've gotten from what we see in other parts of the world. But in Nigeria here, lobbying and a lobbyist, is it really and truly just an advocate, or do you need to have some certain amount of money to be able to take a case or a letter, as you said, to your representative?
I won't use money. I would say resources.
What's the difference?
Resources could be people. You could actually have people who are interest groups, who are interested in whatever thing you want to push. So you could have non-profits who are working in that area, and it's very common around environmental issues, and for me, there are groups who do follow the money, which means they are basically tracking things in the budget and things like that. So if you know that these groups exist, for instance, and you have an interest in why a constituency project has not been done in your constituency, you can reach out to them. They can amplify your voice. So sometimes I don't think resources is just money. It also means that you have some sort of network or people to be able to influence your decision at that level.
Okay, let's talk a little bit. Your organization, Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, I understand you have some sort of a tracker.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And if we look at PLAC's bill tracking database right now, I'm sure we'll see hundreds of bills moving through the 10th National Assembly. But if you ask the average person who's listening in right now, they feel completely disconnected from these hundreds of bills that are moving through. So why does it seem like the legislative process in Nigeria is an exclusive, closed-door club? And whose fault is it that the citizens are not carried along and they are left in the dark?
Well, I have to agree with you. It's quite unfortunate that it seems that way. Again, many of the proceedings are not aired live. Sometimes they are shown, but not all of them. There's what they call the order paper, which is usually the agenda for the day.
Right.
You just don't have access to it, you know. However, groups like us try to bridge the gap between the National Assembly and Nigerian citizens by putting out many of these activities and documents and things on our website for the ordinary Nigerian to follow. Again, progressively, the National Assembly is beginning to do some of these things themselves through their own social media platform. They have like a YouTube channel, and then there's also NTA that shows, I think, legislative activities on Thursdays or something. So it's an age-old tradition. I don't know how to explain it, but we're coming from a place where governance has been closed and things like that, and we will expect that, of course, the National Assembly being the people's house, representatives of the people, will begin to open some of these things for citizens to understand and to see. But that hasn't quite happened so much. And that's why some groups like PLAC are able to say, okay, we have an interest in this. We want to create citizens' access and, you know, just sort of put out the information right there. Funny enough, we have many of our interest groups, or will I say our constituencies, are lawyers who are tracking bills, who want to see where bills have progressed. They use it for their own research and things like that. So you have to be really interested to be able to follow some of these things. And we just try as much as possible to support some of these activities, to be able to have other civil society groups in the room, have professionals and experts and, you know, normal citizens who may want to be part of public hearings and things like that, to be part of the conversations.
So just to be clear, is there a deliberate attempt to maintain the old system of like closed legislative processes, or are we seeing a shift, gradual, slow?
It's a gradual,
as
slow,
it may be,
very slow.
Is it there, that shift?
Yeah.
They are open to citizens participating in the processes.
Yeah. I think they are. Not everything, you know. Of course, many times you hear, oh, this is a closed executive session, which means it's basically just for legislators to deliberate upon. But there are processes in which citizens can follow through. So, like I gave an example, if you're interested in a bill, you need to know at what point where the bill is. If a bill, you know, goes through first reading, is committed to committee stage, at that committee stage, most times you see that there's a public hearing. At that public hearing, it's advertised, it's shown on TV and announced and said, oh, we're going to have a public hearing on so and so bill. And so if you have an interest, it will be advisable to write a memo, you know, make it submitted to the House or the Senate, wherever the bill is being passed or being raised. And then from there, you might not necessarily get an opportunity to speak, but a submission of a memo will be accepted.
Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. Let's even understand those processes, because a lot of people think that it is when it gets to the floor and they're debating it that's where it starts from. So walk us through the process. You mentioned the committee stage. Is that like the first point where a bill gets to be deliberated on, or does it pass through the readings before it gets to the committee stage? For somebody who's listening right now and says, I use the erosion part because I saw something in the news today. About some parts of Anambra, and I served there.
Anambra has a bit of erosion.
Yeah, exactly. I served there 20 years ago, and that was a problem then. It is still a problem now. For somebody like me who says, for example, because this place had some kind of impact on me, part of my growing journey and all of that, I want to make a case concerning that, and I want my representatives or my senator to carry this up so that they're doing something about it. Walk me through the process of how I will get my voice to be heard as a lobbying citizen.
There are two things that you've brought the citizen aspect. So unfortunately, a citizen cannot just introduce a bill.
Okay.
You have to go through a legislator.
And lobby the legislator?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and that's why I say you can't do it alone.
So what does lobbying a legislator look like?
So for instance,
process by process.
You have an interest.
Yes.
So everybody's going to play a role now. Civil society, media, because media is going to amplify your voice, make it known and things like that. And of course, the people of the community. So you're not from Anambra, you schooled there, you live there, something. It will be, the first thing will be to reach out to community people. How is this thing affecting you? What do you think that we can do? What do you want us to do? That's organizing. You've already started getting people together. You approach who is the legislator, if you want to go through the House of Reps, who is the person representing your constituency. If you want to go through a senator, you find out who the person is. And then,
can you just jump the House of Reps and go to the senator?
Yeah, because we have a bicameral house.
Legislature.
Yeah, legislature. So bills can be introduced either at Senate or in the House.
Okay.
And at some point, they will have to go for concurrence and passed as one bill. So harmonized, actually, basically. And so there are three processes of a bill stage where at some point it goes to committee. So there's first reading, second reading, third reading. And at first reading, of course, the bill is introduced. And then there's where you have the debates, and then you go to committee stage. At committee stage now, it's expected to be looked at very critically. And of course, at the beginning of every National Assembly, different committees are set up for different areas, thematic areas, education. Even under education, you can have tertiary education, and which means it's supposed to help oversight. So these are the legislators who will be in charge of oversighting the ministries that work under, and agencies, not just ministries, and agencies that work under these areas. So it is at that stage where, when the bill gets to them, they are the ones that organize the public hearing, taking input.
The committees?
Yes.
Okay.
From Nigerian citizens or interested parties or agencies. Sometimes it's even agencies that want a bill passed. You have to give them more powers to do something or whatever. So anyone that's interested at that stage follows through, they debate it at second reading. And of course, if it's being introduced by either the Senate or the House, if there's one in the Senate, they bring it for harmonization and then it passes. So the last stage will be assent. Where the president signs.
Okay. Thank you for that insight. We need to take a quick beat. When we come back, we're going to go into more detail about how the lobbying citizen can walk through all of these stages, what to do, say, if their voices are not heard at any of those stages. Remember, we are taking action. We are recognizing our roles and responsibilities as citizens, and we are saying, perhaps there's something that didn't quite make sense, a bill that I was part of, and I'm seeing that it is changing course. There are ways, how do we correct it, and all of that. All of that when we come back from this time out. Stay with us.
2027 is a long way off. They say the decisions have already been made in in closed rooms. They want you to stay quiet. They want you to stay tired.
But here's the hard fact. The Electoral Act 2025 is already signed. The Nigeria Tax Act 2025 is already in your pocket. The laws that will govern your future are being tested today. This isn't just another radio show. It's a board meeting for the Republic. If you pay tax, you are a shareholder. If you have a vote, you hold the power of attorney. We aren't just discussing policy, we are auditing the performance.
From the three-arm zone to the streets of the FCT, from the federal budget to your local ward, we are tracking every kobo. We are deconstructing every clause.
Don't be a spectator in your own democracy. Don't let them spend your mandate without your permission. It's time to move from the sidelines to the front lines.
Provocative, intellectual, action-oriented. The Citizen's Mandate with Somi, reclaiming the office of the citizen, one audit at a time.
The mandate is yours. Now, let's get to work.
Every Thursday from 5 p.m. only on 95.1 Nigeria Info. Abuja, let's talk.
All right, Capital City, let's get back to work. We're talking on the Citizen's Mandate this afternoon about the lobbying citizen. The citizen who says, I'm not happy with the way this particular bill is being proposed. I don't think it's relevant to Nigerians at this point in time, or I think it has some clauses which, if we tweak a little here or we tweak a little there, that it will work for us. I use the example of the state police bill, and we know how animated conversations get when listeners calling on a radio and talk about this particular bill, which is front and center in front of us right now. But here's another one that we're not paying a lot of attention to, and that is the constitutional amendment bill. That one has an even broader scope. The state police bill is one of the constitutional amendment bills. So imagine, even if the state police bill is at the point where you think, even though my guest is going to tell us that it's not cast in stone at this point. There's still some things, some ways that we may be able to step in as citizens to tweak things here and there. But assuming you even think that it's too far gone at this point, if you were an active citizen, there are some of the key provisions in the constitutional amendment bill that we can be taking a close look at this stage to say, let's not wait till we hear that it has been passed before we now start running kitikata. So, pay attention because there are things that you can do to make your voice heard. The National Assembly is not this untouchable place, and Agianpe has shared some insight on how you can get in there. You might not be able to walk in there as the Emperor, the Conqueror, the Lion, the Champion. Only me one. Yes, I've come here to... But if you have the right information, you have the right kind of resources, as she has said, which may not always be money, but you have the right kind of people, then your voice can be heard. So, thank you so much, Agianpe, for coming. Let's pick it up from where we left off before the ad. You said the committee level is a very key level when it comes to bills that are being passed. And if I heard you correctly, it's introduced at the first reading, goes to the second, then the third, then gets to the committee level.
No, it's always debated at the second reading.
So it's introduced at the first reading?
Yes.
Debated at the second? Okay, then what happens next?
Goes to committees.
Okay.
And then if that's where at that stage they engage the public for their comments, memos, and things like that.
Okay.
And then the committee now produces a report, which sometimes is verbatim as to what happened at the public hearing and things like that. And that's why sometimes on TV is aired. You see different groups mobilizing to bring their attention to the fore at that public hearing. And then it goes through the report stage, and then it comes back for third reading where it is debated. And if it needs to be there's some concurrence and harmonization. Then
the concurrence and harmonization happens between the Senate and the House of Rep.
Yes.
Okay, to say maybe something that was passed at the House,
yes,
a different thing was passed. How do we?
Clause
yes.
Clause, how do we put it together and things like that. So sometimes there's a joint public hearing.
Okay.
By both the House and the Senate, especially when it comes to constitutional amendment.
Okay. Speak to us as plaque and situation room. on a very, very, very honest, no holds barred point of view, are these public hearings actually made public?
Yeah. So that's what I said. They are advertised.
They are advertised?
Yes.
Where?
TV, on TV, radio. Sometimes the committees will put out an announcement that we're having this public hearing on just for the general public to know that this is going on. And let me speak as situation because we engaged the Electoral Act process.
Okay.
You know, we followed through with that. And at the beginning of this year, when we saw that the bill wasn't being passed, we began to talk about the protests and how we need to bring how the National Assembly has to pass the Electoral Act. And in January, a few of us, we're not even many from the station room, a few organizations went to the National Assembly just to be able to say, of course, we didn't go in, and we said to them, look, we are just here to remind our legislators that the Electoral Act needs to be passed. We're going into an election year, and as people who are not just watchers, we are election observers, we feel that passing the bill will be very important or passing the act will be very important for our elections in 2027.
Okay.
And of course, someone came out to speak to us and to ask of what are you here for and things like that. And we had an exchange with the House Committee Chairman on media and who's like the spokesperson of the House of Reps. And he's like, look, don't worry, once the House sits, we assure you that we're going to sit and look at this bill. And of course, when they came back and resumed, the clauses that were brought out were not things that were favorable to us. And we went back again and we kept doing that and doing that. And other people joined, politicians, to the extent that people didn't even know that we started going there first. You know, it now became a full-blown affair. And at the end of the day, you know, there's an extent to which you can influence, but we're happy that at least they reconvened to put the act together and things like that. And we now focus on INEC to be able to deliver guidelines that will help the elections.
Okay. Listeners, the phone lines are open. You can call in and ask your questions. Let's talk to you as well. Get your clarifications. We're looking at the concept of the lobbying citizen, something that a lot of Nigerians don't think actually works. The average Nigerian is thinking, I can't easily access my senator or my House of Rep member. So how do I even start the lobbying process? How do I even get a letter to them? You know, someone asked the question. It says, what's that question? When talking about lobbying, there we go. Okay, it says, when talking about lobbying, is lobbying for votes different from vote buying? Please help us answer that question.
It's different.
Please clarify. Is lobbying for votes different from vote buying? And this is the thing, and this is why we're clearing up the concept of lobbying right now. Because when they hear lobbying, automatically everybody's thinking
that's
money.
That's why I started, saying that, unfortunately, we think it is, because of the way it has been used, we think to lobby for something is a bad thing. But lobbying for something is influencing, and you can influence in different ways. You're advocating as well. There are different ways in which I can lobby you to get something done for me. And in very simple parlance, without looking at it in, legislative terms, what is it to lobby Somi, for instance, to put me on her program? It can be a call. Can you put me in? Do you have chance for me? So it's just the way we look at it. And of course, vote buying is exactly what it is, vote buying. Money is a transactional thing. Money is given to you to do a certain thing. But lobbying is not necessarily the same thing as that.
But can it be the same thing as that? It can be.
It's a broad term
that
encompasses vote buying. Let me put it like that.
Interesting. Okay. So for the purpose of those in the back, just say it again in a sentence. That's what I'm saying. Say it again in a sentence. What is the difference between lobbying for votes and vote buying?
There is a big difference. Lobbying includes different things. It includes campaigns. It includes town hall meetings to actually get you to come out and vote for me. Different things. But vote buying is exactly what it is. Exchange of money.
For votes.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a bit convoluted, but...
Or food, or whatever.
I hope that you who asked the question has gotten your answer. Let's get to the phone lines. Hello?
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Welcome.
My name is Abdul calling from Maitama.
All right.
For example, on the respect of the police, state police, recently National Assembly and the House of Representatives, they are trying to rush to go and review the Constitution and able to pass it. I think it's a very sensible something. When we talk about security entirely, it's not about the state police is the problem. The police that we have and other security that we have, they are capable of taking care of the insecurity we have. But the funding is the matter. We all believe security is very expensive. If that is the case, where is the money of the removal of subsidy going so that they should now synergize between them and able to increase their own welfare? It's only in Nigeria that you will see a policeman sometime buy even uniform to himself.
All right, Abdul.
Without gadgets.
All right, Abdul. So the question then becomes, if you as a citizen is concerned about the funding parameters of the state police bill, did you get an opportunity to make your voice heard? You know, in the constituting of that bill, you know, now that it's been passed by both national assemblies, it's going to the State House of Assemblies, you know, to get their approval. As a citizen, the question then becomes, can I approach my State House of Assembly members to say, the matter of funding needs to be more clearly stated, or this is what I think concerning funding. Of course, again, as Agianpe has said, you will not approach as an individual. You are going to need the power of resources, which can come in the form of people, right, to be able to approach the State House of Assembly members to say, I need this and this and this to be looked at before it is. So it's not a rubber stamp kind of passing by the State House of Assemblies and being sent back to the Senate. So any areas of concern that you have as a citizen, why we're having this conversation now is how do we then get our voices heard?
Mobilize
so that your voices can be heard. Exactly. Nema from Asokoro is asking, how can one join this lobbying group? Please help us answer, Nema.
Which one is lobbying group?
So clarify. So do you have to be part of a group that is a lobbyists?
No, you know, we're saying lobbying citizens. And we're talking about it in very simple terms.
Yes.
How can a citizen lobby their
lawmaker
legislator or lawmaker to be able to pass a bill that concerns them? And, you know, we've spoken, I don't know when Neme joined, but we've spoken a lot about the different ways in which you can engage. And for me, I wouldn't use lobbying per se. I'll just say an active citizen. Because there are individuals who just use their social media handles to be able to draw attention to issues that their legislators may be concerned about. And many times, they actually don't want to be called out. But if you do that, it gets their attention. Sometimes, people who are not so, what's the word now? You know, some of them take it that you're attacking them. Some who don't actually respond and say, okay, this is what I have done regarding this. And I think if you follow my page, you will get more updates and things like this. Or they take some of this, and I have to, you know, commend like the spokesperson of the House of Reps. He engages, you know, Twitter X Spaces, people invite him to ask him to speak on issues, and he does. So people like that, if you have access to them or their Twitter handles and you feel that there's an issue that you want to draw attention to, you just tweet at them and say, please, why is this not being done or whatever? And then you keep doing that. So you just have to be active to be able to engage your lawmakers.
Okay. Now let's talk about citizens who have actually done some of these things that you've talked about. You know, they've written the memorandums, they've engaged or tried to assess their lawmakers as much as they can, and then they don't seem to be able to get through. What is the legal or civic escalation path to hold a lawmaker accountable? That is me now, the person representing my constituency. I've tried and tried. I cannot, I've sent a memorandum, there hasn't been a response, I've done this, I've done that, I've engaged on social media. What is legal and escalation path? The understanding, or rather, the knowledge that a lot of people have is that there is a recall tool available to citizens to be able to use to hold their lawmakers accountable. But it doesn't quite seem like it's been successfully used.
No, it hasn't, because the provisions of that recall is actually very difficult to go through. So I think it requires a certain percentage of registered voters in the constituency. And how do you get registered voters together? It's easier to even vote in or out someone than using that recall tool, because again, it's the number of people who have PVCs who are going to go and vote and things like that. But to recall a legislator, you need number of registered signatures of the registered voters in that constituency.
Why is that such a difficult thing to get? I don't get that part.
Well, so these are things that have been put in the constitution that Nigerians need to ask to be changed. I don't know the history, but of course, 1999 constitution, which means it was put there since 1999. Again, that's why we go through constitutional amendments regularly, to be able to pick out some of the things that we can correct along the way. So, and I think one of these things is they recalled, and there was a failed attempt, I think was for Senator Melai.
Yes.
And that was one of the most popular examples. Where do you get phone numbers of all the registered voters, their signatures and things like that? It's quite a difficult process, and I don't think it's a process as it were can actually go through.
So if we're looking at perhaps, constitutional amendment is currently underway. If a citizen is looking at that now, what is the major stumbling block? Is it that, because I'm thinking the database, signatures and all of that, well, maybe not signatures. I don't know if registering voters actually sign. I can't remember. So maybe they might have to collect the signatures from the citizens themselves. But I believe that there are databases that have the phone numbers, and all of and what have you. So if we're looking at the possibility of making an amendment in the Constitution on that one, should we be looking at the law empowering the citizens to be able to go to where that existing database is to get the information out? What exactly is the stumbling block on this that they might need to fix? Because what is the point of having a tool that you're supposed to use to hold your lawmakers accountable and it's ineffective?
Mm-hmm. So we'll probably have to look at what obtains in other countries. But for me, it's just very simple. Not even up to half of the people on the voters register vote. Why do you require them to take out a legislator? So it will mean to also correct that language to either say the people that voted or something. But we will have to, sort of look around and see what best practice is for, removing a legislator. But as it is in Nigeria, the only way is through the ballot. And that's why we ask people to, as much as possible. People say, oh, my votes don't count. They don't do this. They don't do that. Show up. If this thing is of interest to you, try your best to say that, okay, at least I was present to ensure that I voted this person out. And for me, that remains the only tool at this time to take out a legislator.
So, no current legal or civic escalation path?
Well, the escalation path legally could be that you want to bring an attention to an issue. And we've been talking about environmental issues, for example. If you feel that your rights are being breached in the process of the lack or absence of a law, then you can approach the court.
Okay.
The courts can actually mandate that something be done about it. And so that process exists in terms of asking the National Assembly to do something.
Interesting. I've got a voice note, but the time before the commercial would not allow me to take it. So let's go and take that commercial. If we have the time right after, we'll take the voice note, then get the news, and then wrap up on our conversation today. Stay with us.
Of the biggest talk on your number one station for talk, Nigeria in